Hello everybody, my name is Michael, you know me as Coding Jungle, and today I want to talk about the field validation in Formularize and what it is, what it's used for, and why it might be important for you. Alright, so basically a field validation for any form is checking the data that's submitted for that field before the field is submitted, and if it meets your criteria, rejecting it. Now in Formalize, there is a very basic field validation. Like it checks certain fields for like if it's supposed to be a number field, it checks to see if the value entered is an actual number before it submits it. If it's not, it rejects it. Same with like URL and email, it checks to see if it meets the standards of those things. Now if you want to, with this method, you can override that basic validation by creating a field validation and making it more robust. Now like I said, this isn't for everybody. It's not designed for beginners. It's designed for advanced users and people who know PHP and understand some things about the IPS framework. So I will try to answer any questions, but I will not build form validations for you free of charge or anything like that. It's a feature that's in there because I understand there might be some people out there that need a better control over the validation of a form, and I'm giving them that option. So just keep that in mind. It's not for everybody. It's not something that I wanted out on the front end when you're creating the field, because it does require PHP, and you can have malicious PHP in the field validation because of the way it's run. I just keep that in mind. It's something that should be restricted and not given to everybody. All right, so with that out of the way, let's go into some of the details on it. So go look at a field here that we've created. Now, like I said, the only thing that it really checks on fields is basic stuff. Now, on a text field, it doesn't check anything by default. You can go in and make it required. Basically, what that does is when they submit the form, it will reject it, saying, oh, this field is empty. It needs to be filled with something. Now, like I said, that's very basic. Now, you want to overwrite that. Let's go back to the validation here. So let's go create a new validation, and it's going to ask you for what form it belongs to. So we're going to type in the form's name, or begin to, and it's going to auto-populate, and we're going to choose it. And it says, it will tell you some things about the form. It will tell you the name and when it was added and what folder it was added in. All right, so then we go to the field choice. Well, right now we only have the one field, so it should be fairly easy. We're going to choose that, and that will bring up, everything we can do with it. All right. Now I'm going to go over the tags really fast. When you have a validation that doesn't meet your expectation, you throw an exception. And I often just use invalid argument exception because it's the easiest to remember. And then you put your message in there that shows to the user. So if it fails, it will take whatever message you have inside there and show that to the user why the value they entered is invalid, basically. Then you have the value that's actually passed to the code by the IPS form, and that's the value from the field itself. And then you also can call the other field data from the other forms through the request in IPS. So in case you want to, if another field has a certain value and you want the validations to change based on that, then that's one option you can do. You can check to see if this other field has the value you're expecting and go, oh, use this field validation instead. All right, so with that out of the way, we're going to go do a very basic field validation. Now, there is already a form that does it, already a field that does this, and that's the number field. But for whatever reason, you might not want to use a number field. I don't know. I mean, you could be, for whatever reason you want to use a text field instead of a number field. All right, so we use a text field. Now, like I said, the text field has no validation on its own other than required. So let's say we want to add a text field, but we want it to only accept a number. So what we do, I'm sorry, let's change that. Let's say we only want it to accept strings, not numbers. So what we want to do is we want to, this is very basic code. We go if int value. And basically what this does, this is very basic PHP. What it does is it checks to see if the value is an integer. And if it is, it evaluates to true. And so it will activate the code that's within the if brackets. So we come over here and we click on the validation or the exception here, and we type in all right, so when we save this, we're going to save it. Now, when this field, we come over here to demo 1 and we go create submission, it will now show that the field is required because it has a validation, even though the required option isn't selected here. So just keep that in mind. It will show up as a required field because it has validation to it. Now, if we type in 1 here, with any luck, it will tell us it must be a number. It must not be a number. But if we type in string and do the same thing, it's going to validate it. It's going to say, oh, this is good. This is a good value. All right, so we're good. We can accept it. There's a lot of things you can do with it. I mean, imagination's the limit, basically, of what you can do with field validation. Now, like I said, a lot of people won't be needing this. A lot of people won't know PHP, and the people who do know PHP can be dangerous. So this is why it's in the ACP, not on the field itself when you create the field, because since the form creation's on the front end, I didn't want you to accidentally give this ability to a group, like say your members, that can do malicious things, because you have literally access to the entire IPS framework. They can get your database password, they can get your database name, they can get your database location, they can issue database commands, the whole nine from this, because it exists, because since it's evaluated inside the IPS framework, it has access to everything that the IPS framework has. So it is vitally important to keep that in mind when you accept validation code from a user for their field. If you don't know PHP yourself and you have a friend that does, have them go over the PHP code looking for anything that's malicious or whatever. But for the most part, the general rule you should have is that you probably shouldn't allow this to be used by anybody. Or not, I shouldn't say anybody, but by everybody. It should be something that you only give access to a very limited group, like say your admins, to use. And if you don't trust your admins, keep them locked out of it. All right, that is it for the form validation. I'm sorry, the field validation. So if you have any questions or comments, ask me down below. I would be willing to do field validations if you need them, but I am going to charge for them because they're something that can be rather complicated and time consuming. And like I said, I didn't add this feature to make money on. I added this feature to give people the ability who needs the extra stuff for it. All right. So, like I said, any questions or comments, leave them down below, and I'll get back to you in a timely manner, hopefully. All right, you guys have a great day. I'll talk with you later.